Hi everyone, my name is Christian Butzek and I'm a realtor here with Remax Crest in downtown Vancouver. The topic of today's blog is the outlook for 2019. So you've probably had a lot of conversations around the water cooler, talking to your friends over a cup of coffee at Starbucks. Well, what is the real outlook? Of course, nobody can predict 100%. We don't have a crystal ball to say exactly what's going to happen in 2019. But what we can do is just look at some longer term trends and kind of slot 2019 into that. I think if we look at sort of the two factors that have had the biggest impact the last 6 months on the market, the first thing we would say is it's been the stress test. At this point, you probably have heard about the 2% stress test. Now what that is in order for you to get qualified for a mortgage of, let's say, 3.8%, you need to show the bank that you can support a 5.8% mortgage, right? And so what you really get qualified at that higher number. And so what that means is a lot of buyers today in 2019 can't buy as much as they would have 2 years ago. And that one thing has had the biggest impact on the real estate market. There is some talk of the OAKWYN, which is a group that represents the mortgage independent mortgage brokers in Canada, approaching the federal government to see if they can have that stress test reduced to 0.95%. But that probably won't happen this year. It could be an election topic, but that change most likely wouldn't come this year. So we're going to have that stress test for 2019, it looks like. And the second thing, local to Vancouver and BC, is of course all the new taxes that we got. The NDP government here brought in the not the stress, but the speculation and vacancy tax, and that's going to go up to 2% of the property's value in future years. And so that's a very big tax. If you can just think about that, if somebody who from Alberta, a couple that own property in Kamloops or even in Vancouver, if they don't live here for 6 months a year, they've got to pay 2% of the value of that home. So for simple math, if we say $1 million, now they need to pay $20,000 in tax. So a lot of those Canadians are going to sell those properties, or they're not going to, well, they're just probably not going to hold on to them, and not going to reinvest in the lower mainland and parts of BC. So that has put a dampening effect on the market. We don't see any of that changing. The NDP government here is going to be in they're coming up to the second year of their 4-year term. Now, this is, by the way, not to be political with you, but let's also be honest about this, is that the finance minister here in BC has been very adamant about bringing the prices down. She talked in the 2018 budget, after she gave the budget, she wanted to see real estate values come down by 20%, and which was quite a radical statement for a finance minister to make. But the government does drive the agenda in many ways, and we have to recognize that. And if we have a government that is talking like that, you can probably bet that they're going to put other policies in place to keep values from jumping like they did in the last couple of years, in 2015, 16, 17, right? So what's the outlook for 2019? I think it's going to be fairly stable. You'll probably see the $1 million less properties continue to be resilient in this market, and maybe even ebb up slightly. Everything over $1 million is obviously going to take a real beating. And I'm just going to illustrate this by drawing a simple graph. Let's put this up here. I call this the population pyramid. And the way to understand this is that about 80% of the population fits in the bottom half of the pyramid. So what that means is about 80% of people can afford homes under $1 million. Makes sense, right? Because we're not all millionaires. And it's only about 20%, of course, that are in the population that can afford $1 million homes. Okay, and so that's why these homes, you're going to see a continued reduction in value, I believe anyway, and certainly when I look at the numbers, that's what I see. And these homes will probably, if it's under $1 million, if it's under 800,000, I think those homes are going to be fairly resilient. You're not going to see those drop off. Certainly not if it's in a good condition, if it's in a good location like downtown Vancouver, close to a SkyTrain. So these guys, it's a tale of two markets. These guys are going to stay fairly resilient and strong, and these homes are going to come down in value most likely from what we're seeing, okay? So now, how does this fit into what you're doing? At the end of the day, whether you decide to purchase or not really depends on your situation. I mean, if you're living at home in your mom's basement and you're making a decent income, you're not paying any rent, this is a great opportunity for you to save that money, build up your down payment, because you could use it maybe at the end of the year. You might be able to use it in in 18 months or so. And it's a good buyer's market right now because we're not seeing multiple offers. I mean, 2 years ago, I would have clients who would be interested in a condo in Fairview, for example, and there was 18 offers on the place. I mean, it was ridiculous, right? 18 offers on one place. Today, that doesn't exist. Today, meaning February 2019, we see that the market is much cooler. And so if you go out looking for a place, there's a pretty good chance you can find a place you like and you don't have to compete with someone. And maybe you can even negotiate $10,000, $15,000, or $20,000 off the price. So at least that's the approach I've been taking with my clients the last 3 to 6 months. And that's a real bonus and a benefit to you as well, of course, right? So that's a little bit, we've shifted more into a buyer's market, obviously, then. Those are some of the key points. Now, remember, you're always going to get people, who are going to wait. And I think markets often become the stories that we tell ourselves. My wife and I were out with some friends recently, and we're having dinner in Richmond, and one couple talked about waiting, and the reality is some people are just going to wait forever. They're going to jump on the fence, and they're never going to jump off the fence, and those folks are always going to really miss out on opportunities. And so this might be a time when you really, get your act together and say, well, I've wanted a place. The market has stabilized. It's even come down in different parts. Maybe I can make a jump into it, right? And a few things you might want to consider now. Remember, we want to look long-term too. You can never really time the market. We don't know where it's going to go in the next 3, 6, 9 months. But we know long-term, Vancouver's going to be fine. And that's where I'm always looking. I'm looking long-term. So let's think about this for a minute. We have a market. We live in a region here in Vancouver where basically we're seeing a lot of population growth. And in Canada, every year, we have about 300,000 immigrants that come to Canada. All right, let's just say to Canada. So that is a huge population increase. Well, the next question we want to ask ourselves is, how many of these immigrants are coming to BC? And actually, the latest business journals and studies show about 3,500 people are moving to the Lower Mainland every month, okay? Now just think about that. If you multiply that by 12 months a year, right? that is going to be over 40,000 people per year. Just doing some quick math, I think that's about 42,000 people per year coming to the Lower Mainland. So that's a lot of people that's moving here. Something you want to remember is where people go, prices grow. Okay? Where people go, prices grow. And it's the opposite is also true. If you look like at a mining town in northern BC, once the mine shuts down, people leave the town, the prices crash. Well, we're lucky here in the Lower Mainland. People keep moving here. And so we're seeing a lot of people move here. And because more and more immigrants will continue to come to an immigrant-friendly country like Canada, over the long term, you can expect prices to grow for sure. Okay, 100%. Okay, so we know that. Now, what's a good example of economic growth? Well, if you've ever walked down Georgia in the last 3 months, you've noticed that old Canada Post building. Well, they're doing construction on it. Who's going to be moving in? Amazon. Amazon is redeveloping that site with 2 towers, and they're going to house about 3,500 workers. Okay, these are Amazon employees, and Amazon employees are very skilled. They tend to make a very good income. Generally, I would be surprised if they started with anything less than $80,000 per year, and probably up to about $120,000 per year on average. Okay, so why do I tell you that? Well, just let's think about that. We're going to have 3,500 people move in to the downtown core by 2021 when this site opens. 3,500 people. That's a lot of people that are going to need a place to live, right? If you look at the MLS, the number of condos or townhomes available right now in places like Yaletown, Cole Harbour, and the West End downtown, it's their workforce was basically consuming a lot of that, meaning the point is that it's going to put pressure on prices again as we have more immigrants moving here, and also we have people coming here who are going to be making very, very good salaries. That's the more long term, right? And so in the long term, I think the numbers look very strong. We're going to see Vancouver's always going to be a place people want to come to. It's got a great lifestyle. It's safe. It's clean. It's beautiful. It's close to the United States. Good universities, and we have some tech obviously moving into the downtown. So the economy in Vancouver is looking pretty good. So we're going to see more and more people coming here, and if that's the case, you can expect prices to grow. Remember, where people go, prices grow. So long term, it's going to look solid. It's going to look strong. So make sure you get everything together, get your act together. I know you are, so that you're in a position where you can move forward with a purchase, especially if it's in a slow market like this, where we've just kind of moved into a lull. So that's a little bit of our short and long-term look for 2019. Feel free to get in touch with any questions you have. Look forward to seeing you again very soon. I'm Christian Butzek, and wishing you a great day.